you received one. Your organization may not have received a compliance notice around making certain that all of the information that is supposed to be um, entered into CitySpan what has been done. And hopefully you were able to get that in before your mid-year progress report, which was due last Friday. But we had sent out compliance notices in January to grantees that still had not gotten all of their staff background clearances completed or their enrollment registration or attendance taken. So we were just working with our grantees to make certain that they got those important data elements input into CitySpan. At this point, that should be complete, and we should be seeing, progress towards your goals as demonstrated in, again, your mid-year progress report. The grant managers will be reviewing each of the progress reports and responding to you within the next few weeks. So you can look forward to receiving that. But I did want to point out that we are looking at enrollment. As many of you know, we are in a um, strange environment as it relates to our new administration and what we may see come down. We don't have any information around that now, but even amongst our outcomes and our reporting, it has already been something that City Council has been looking at. They really want to see the results. They have continued to put more and more towards out of school time programming based upon what the indication of what our office indicated we were doing with the funds and who we were serving and how many youth we were serving. And so they want to see the results of that. If we are not able to demonstrate those results, we cannot continue to secure the funding through City Council that we have thus far. And our interest is to continue to increase those funds, right? So that we can continue to serve more and more youth and support your programs further. So it is so important that we have the data in there. We also have to be able to demonstrate to them an increase in services when we receive additional funding. So we're receiving about $27 million. 90% of our entire budget goes directly to our grantees. 27 million, over 27 million of the 30 million that we receive. And so we need to demonstrate the services. Again, I just really want to drive that home of who we're serving. So one of the things that we're looking at is making sure that our grantees are meeting the expectations as it relates to enrollment. If we're saying, grantees projected to serve 18,000 or proposed to serve 18,000 youth, we can't turn around and show them at the end of the year that our actual was 9,000. And that's what we're facing in the office, just to be completely transparent, because when you don't put in the data, when you're not meeting the goals, we run into issues where it's going to impact everyone's funding if we're not able to sustain. So again, just want to be completely transparent into why this is so important. So we will be sending out enrollment mandate compliance requirements. And as a reminder, grantees must serve 85% of the proposed number of youth to be funded, or that they propose to serve that were funded for. So if you were funded to serve 100 youth, if you said we're going to serve 100 youth, you need to serve 85 to meet compliance, right? So what we're doing at this point, having looked at mid-year progress reports, is anyone that is below 70% of their proposed will be receiving a compliance notice this month as it relates to enrollment. And I really want to point out the second bullet here, that failure to meet a minimum of 70% of the number of youth proposed to be served for the 24-25 school year by May 1st may result in up to 15% reduction of any continuation funds for FY26. And that is a provision within the grant. If compliance is not met, we are able to not continue funds or reduce funds. So that is, again, a part of the grant agreement. Want to make sure that you're clear on that. And again, we want you all to be successful. This is not to be punitive. That's why I kind of laid out like the importance of why we meet these goals. And so even though the compliance goal is 85%, we gave you a great window there of 15%. Plus or minus, I should say, to even meet compliance. But we're saying you have to at least meet 70% to not be impacted as it relates to a reduction of funds. If you're supposed to serve 100 and you're only serving 60 kids, you're going to receive a reduction in funds. Um, so that we can give those funds to an organization that we have many organizations that are supposed to serve 100 and are serving 150. Like we want to give those funds to organizations that are trying and are able to serve more youth because at the end of the day, a a goal of ours is to support our nonprofit organizations, but our ultimate goal is to serve all youth across the district. And so we want to put the funds where they can be used. Okay. So just want to be very clear about that. Notifications will be sent out to grantees who are impacted by this tomorrow. The good news is it's only 27%. Actually, we're doing some updates on some numbers this morning. It may be less than that. So roughly a quarter of our grantees that are falling below that 70% threshold. That means, the vast majority are doing well and are doing, often, like I said, above what their proposed was. So I really want to applaud you for your great work there. But for those that are not, we are going to again issue this notice, and in this notice will be a template for an improvement plan. Your grants manager will reach out to you and work with you to develop the improvement plan around recruitment and retention that will need to be submitted by Friday, March 7th. Okay, so your grantee, your grants management specialist, again, will reach out to you next week. We'll be working with you. We will be providing the tip sheets that we provided before around recruitment and retention to help you. We have them a template to help you to develop that plan, and we'll be supporting you so that you can get to that mark because we do not want anyone to lose funds. We want you to have continue your programming as is for next year, and we want you to be able to serve the youth. So we're here to help you in that way. So I am going to pause. Sorry, somehow went on mute. So yeah, as I was saying, I'm just going to pause here and see if there are any questions around this particular issue. Oh, I see Liddy's hand is up. Is that Miss Joe? Oh, you're on mute. I see you, but I can't hear you. You are still on mute, Miss Joe. It just doesn't get any easier, does it? I don't know why we struggle so much with this, but I cannot hear you. If you want to put your question in the chat um, or follow up afterwards, you can.
Shane, I do have a question. I
Yes,
don't know if you
yes,
can hear me.
yes, I
Okay,
can hear.
perfect. So the reduction would happen if um we didn't meet. So for example, if we needed to serve 100 kids, we said we would serve 100 kids. If we're not at 85 out of 100 kids or below 85 out of 100, then we would be affected?
No, 70%.
No?
So
70%. Okay.
85%, and thank you, Justin. I want to make that very
Mm,
clear. 85% is your compliance requirement, right? So in order to get
okay.
compliancy points, um, you need to meet 85% of your proposed. But we're even providing a greater window as it relates to the enrollment for the reduction of funds. If you are below
Okay.
70%, then you fall into the window of facing, the potential reduction of funds. Um, we
Okay.
will be looking at each on a case by case basis. If you have demonstrated, we really want to work with you. If your summer programming then pulls up, and we are looking, we did look at school year, for those that are year round, really trying to decipher what the school year versus summer, because we do have some programs that serve additional youth during the summer. So we weren't, looking at that as an issue. We were looking at for school year, are you meeting your threshold? So
Okay.
I will say, if you do receive a letter and you're like, oh, no, 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 this isn't right, like, please contact your grants manager right away, because if there is a justification for why you haven't, being like, for example, sometimes it was hard to decipher if you are a site that is year round and it's all looped together. If it wasn't
Hmm.
clear to decipher from like your AWAs how many you were serving in school year versus summer, and there is a distinct number, if we were not able to capture that correctly and you have a justification, just let your grants manager know right away and we can remove you from the list. We just need to make sure that we understand, oh, okay, that makes sense. We just want to make sure you're on track, right? And so,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah. So, and then you'll have the improvement plan. We'll work with you to meet it. And if we can get you to 70% by May 1, then no worries. Um, but we want to try to get you there. So that's the distinction. 70 below, so anyone below 70% by May 1, or basically for the school year, um, will be in jeopardy.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Okay, well, I am going to move us on. We do have one other topic, and then we'll have questions again at the end. So if you have questions in regards to this, the next topic, or any thing that you'd like to discuss, we can do so then. There's- I, there we go. Okay, so OST staff module notifications. I'm sure you have all received emails, unless you are on top of your staff background clearances and have not entered anything new. And if so, round of applause for you. We're grateful for you for having that up to date. But if you have new staff joining, or you had staff that had not yet met their clearances, you were all of a sudden bombarded. We have heard feedback from emails, the automated emails from CitySpan. We set it up so that when you had actions needed for your staff, that you were to receive an email, so you would know that, hey, this person is, still needs a background clearance, or their affidavit is due to expire. When doing that, it was not articulated clearly by our team that we did not want that to be a daily email. And so you were receiving the same emails daily until that was resolved. And that seemed like a lot. I understand. And so I wanted to let you know. Um, First of all, you were also, let me start with the fact that in addition, you were receiving verification notices as well. And the verification notices are supposed to come to your grants manager. So if you uploaded a certificate, or um, a background clearance, or a certificate for a training or something, that's supposed to come to us to let us know that we need to go in and review and verify. You are receiving those emails as grantees as well. So it definitely seemed like a lot. So there was just some errors with that rollout. You should no longer be receiving those verification emails. One. Two, the notifications that you are receiving, you are now should only be receiving once per staff member, and that's 30 days before an expiration. So if a clearance is due to expire within 30 days, an affidavit is due to expire within 30 days, you will receive an email for that person. It will say Shanna Sampson's is going to expire on March 13th, and you would have received it today. You will not receive it again on the 14th and the 15th and the 16th until that is actually resolved. You will only receive it that one day. And then last of all, we have heard back from you that the notifications, we originally had them set up to go to the grant administrator that's listed in your grant. We have heard that that's not necessarily who you want it to be sent to. So we have changed it to be the admin users in CitySpan. Those are the folks that have full access to CitySpan and that are often the ones that are going in and doing the data entry, right? So we wanted to make certain that you knew that it could still be the same person. Often the primary point of contact or grant administrator is also the admin in CitySpan. But if it's not, and you're a POC, but you're not the one in CitySpan, it now is going only to those folks that are CitySpan admin users. Okay, so we made those changes based upon the feedback that we heard from grantees around these automated emails. These are supposed to be helpful to you to help you track when anything's going to be expiring. It is not supposed to be a nuisance. So continue to provide us feedback if around um, any of the emails or any other components of CitySpan that you feel could be more useful. We are working to try to improve the system to help automate as much as possible for you and for us so that it doesn't feel like so much manual work in managing. Um, One option I did want to note, and when we open it up to questions, you can and answers, you can certainly. I would love to hear your feedback around whether you think this would be beneficial. But right now, we have it set up to go to all admin users, as I said. We were thinking about and we did query CitySpan to ask them if this was possible. It is something that they could do. We'd have to build it out. Everything in CitySpan takes a little bit of work. 'Cause there has to be coding and logic built behind it. But we could add a component when you go into your users where you could opt out of notifications. So if you're an admin and you're receiving the notifications, but you don't want to receive them, you could go in and just check a box to opt out of notifications. So if you feel like that is something that would be beneficial, either you can convey that today or as you're experiencing this, you think like, hey, yeah, I think that would be a great idea. You can shoot an email to your grant manager or myself so that we can look to make that update. Okay, so I just wanted to provide you all that feedback. I am going to also just wanted to frame here that we want you to take this opportunity to go in and review your users overall. And this is really important, I've mentioned before, because if you have folks that are no longer working on the grant, funded program that are no longer working for your organization, that are users that remember their username and password, and God forbid, I hope no one would do this, but they could still log into CitySpan and have access to your organization information and your students' personal identifiable information, which we don't want, right? So it is so important that we all take a moment to go into our org users and look and see who's there and who needs to be made inactive. So the grant managers will be following up with all of our grantees within the next couple of days to just send you the reminder instructions. It's pretty easy. You go into CitySpan, you go into your org users, and you can hit the drop down on the role, and one of them is inactive, and you just make your grantees inactive. Sorry, your staff inactive. That should no longer be in your active in your system. But we're going to send you an email with those instructions along with a list of your users in the system. So you can take a look at it and be like, oh, that's fine. Then nothing else is needed to be done. But if you're like, oh, that person hasn't been here for 3 years, then you want to go in and make them inactive. So we're going to send you a list of your current active users. I have included here on the list the two different types that you have: the admin, who has full access to the system that can go in and make changes, do amendments, etc. And then those that are users that have limited access. They can manage the activities, the registration, the attendance. So that might be, you might have your program staff going in and entering activities and attendance, for example, or registering new students, but they can't access the administrative settings, the staff modules, or the grant agreements. You have to be an admin to do that. That's why we're sending the staff module notifications to the admins. You also have to be an admin to go in and make these changes. So if you see folks on there and you can go in and change people's status. If you're like, oh, they're an admin, they should really only be a program user. You can make that change, or vice versa. And again, you can make them inactive. But we're going to follow up with an email just to provide the steps on how to do that and provide you your list of your current active users. Okay. So that is it for our updates. Other than I do want to actually let me go back. DeAndre, I think you were going to quickly walk folks through, just demonstrate where the user org users are.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that really quickly. Thank you, Shanna. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So, like Shanna mentioned, within the portal, you'll have two different account types. Um, One being the program staff user. Is everybody able to see my screen first off? Thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. The program admin, this is the um, a lower level than the agency admin. They have limited access. They can go in here and add in participants. They can also use the data upload tool. They can go into sites. Once you're in the site, of course, you can go into an activity. The program staff user will be able to do this. This is limited access. You'll be able to do enrollment, scheduling, attendance, generate reports, etc. The only thing that separates the program staff user from the admin user is the ability to be able to access the grant agreement, staff modules, user, organization user, some of the higher level permissions that the agency or the administrator will be able to do. The program staff user won't be able to do that. So we can go back and look at the user types again, and these are how the these are the breakdown of those two user types.
And can you show them here under the role? There's the drop down.
Yes. So within the role, you have an option to um, within the program staff user, you can filter it. You can filter it by what type of staff user would you like this person to only see the different services, or would you like them to see both grants and services as well? And within the agency admin user, if you go to role, the only selection that you have is either keeping them as an agency admin or marking them as inactive. Like Shannon mentioned before, we'll send out an email of the different users that you have, but then you can see when the last login was for some of the users that you have. But I'm pretty sure that organizations may know um, which of their staff members don't need to have access, and then you can make that decision on your own. But you can go in here and you can drop down and you can make them inactive, and then you can just update the user roles, and then that individual will be inactive, and they will be put onto this inactive user list. So if you hit this button right here, you can see a list of all of the inactive and active users within the portal. So you can see that we have a ton of inactive users that we've went ahead and marked them so that they don't show up when we want to look at only the active users. And this is just a really important step for security protocol. We want to make sure that all of your records are not being accessed from users that are no longer with the organization. So this is just a really important step, and we just want to make sure that you guys are going in and updating this regularly.
And how, DeAndre, so I see the list of agency admin users and then the program staff users where there's the drop down. What if I want to make someone that is a admin user a program staff user? Since there's not that switch in the drop down role, how would I change that?
So the way that we would do that is you would have to we would have to you would have to create an additional a user type. You would have to mark the agency admin as inactive. Unfortunately, uh, we don't have a selection where you can turn an agency admin back into a program staff. We can turn a program staff into an agency admin, but what that would look like is you would have to turn this account inactive, and then you would have to recreate the user type to just only uh, be a program staff user.
So you would make the admin user inactive and then add them as a program site staff user if you want to change them from admin to program site staff user.
Yeah,
However,
currently
if
that's
you
yeah.
if they are currently only a program staff user and you want to give them admin access, I see down there that you can click on that little assign uh, admin to the under the program user and make them an admin, correct?
Yes,
Or
that's
is that
correct.
okay? Okay. All right. Well, with that, we are going to open it back up to any questions that folks have about the staff module, the users, the recommendations around the email notifications, the enrollment mandate, or any other topics that you want to ask questions about or have feedback around. While you guys are
Hello.
thinking, oh, yeah, go ahead.
I have a quick question about the staff clearances module,
Yes.
right?
Uh huh.
And so I just have a question about, so if we have a staff member that originally did not start, like, we have the drop down now for the DTHR process. And
Hmm.
so what if during their duration of, under contract with our organization, if they have pretty much completed the process thereafter starting, and so in originally we set them up and we did the drop section where you just do the all the other clearances, you list those. So would we have to do it twice? So we'll leave all of their original FBI clearances, notion about mandate report, all those things, but then there's a separate section for the DCHR process.
Nope, it's
um,
one or the other.
Right. And so that's what confused me because we were asked about all the things. And I said, well, I uploaded their DCHR process. So why was we were getting notifications that one of the, maybe like, for example, like a affidavit was needed. And I'm saying, well, I thought that
Mm.
it was either or. Um, and so, okay, that makes sense. I'll make note of that. So I am understanding that correctly. It's either or. And
Yeah,
then we
but
can
let
go
me
through.
let me clarify. The affidavit, okay, so you can either do DCHR we pay for. If your office wants to send your staff through the DCHR process,
Yeah.
DCHR covers the various um,
Uh-huh. Fingerprinting.
yeah,
Hmm.
the various registries. It's all
Yeah.
included, and they'll send it back to us and to you, and you can upload that. But if you would rather go through separate FBI, MPD, and NSO, and not go
Uh-huh.
through DCHR, then you upload those three. However, and then
Yeah.
we verify it and it's complete. But however, the affidavit is
Hmm.
required regardless after
Yeah.
one
Well,
year
I was just
after.
using that one as an example. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was just throwing that
It's
out there. Okay, so that, no, that definitely makes sense. So what we like, the follow-up question is, so right now we have now we have transcended our organization to make sure that all of our contractors are doing the DCHR process.
great.
And so, with DCHR process, we do not get any results, of course. And so if we were to get them to receive the letter, clearance letter from DC, DCPS or DCHR process, we would just upload that, right?
Hmm.
And then all of the other ones, other the other like FBI, all those other clearances that we have originally uploaded, will I have to go and delete all of those? If that, I
No,
don't know if it makes any sense.
no, no, no. The system is set to take the most recent. So
Mostly, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so if you have something that's still current, I mean, it's
Yeah.
certainly if it's expired, then it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But if it's still current and you've gone in and you've done a new uh, um, DCHR background check, and so it's going to
Yeah.
extend 2 years from that date, it's going to then
Okay.
it's going to the logic will pick up that later
Mhm.
date so that you are using the most current clearance on file.
Right. That makes so sense. That's so much sense. Okay,
But
thank you so much.
if you run into any issues, and we have had, some bugs as we've rolled this out,
Yeah.
with the automated expiration and notices, like if you see something that doesn't look right, reach out to your grant manager and we'll work with City Span and say, hey, why is this showing up like this? And
Yeah.
sometimes, like with anytime we're rolling out these new things, there are bugs that we have to
Things are
like
gonna
kind of,
happen.
yeah. So if something doesn't look right, certainly reach out to your grant manager, or you can always email data. What is it? Data at DC. .gov. DeAndre, if you don't
If I
mind
could put
putting,
it in the chat, it's
yes,
learn
please put it in the
24.
chat.
I'll put it in the chat. Yeah.
Learn 24 data at
Yeah.
DC.gov. I thought that, yeah. So that goes to DeAndre and his team, and they can also support you. So,
Yay. Okay. Thank you.
of course, Mary, I see your hand up. Oh, you're on mute. Or we can't hear you at least. Let me say that. Maybe you're not. Hmm. Yeah, no, I see you speaking, but I can't hear you. Maybe you could put it in the chat. Okay. Jasmine.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, thank you so much for this for these office hours. I had a
Of
question
course.
about the background checks. So, um, it's more of like a city span question, so maybe DeAndre might know, but I just want to make sure this is what this means. So, on the actions required column of the organization staff webpage, um, it says affidavit verification needed, and I did upload the affidavit in there. So I just want to know, does that mean that you're supposed to look at it and verify it, or does that mean something else?
Yes, once you upload it, and that's the first thing I was saying, um, when we were talking about those notifications, is that originally those verification emails were going to you all. So that may
Oh,
have been confusing, Larice. That may have been what you were also receiving that was confusing you. They were supposed to go to us to notify us, hey, Project Create has
oh,
uploaded new documents for your verification. Then we will go in and verify them. And once they're verified, then it will be seen as met. But on that home page where it says organization staff, and it shows the action needed, if it's a verification, then it lives with us. Then it's on us to complete. And if it's an actual new sort clearance or affidavit needed, then you'll receive the email and it's an action needed on your
okay.
end.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. And
Of
yes,
course.
you did say that in the beginning. A quick follow-up question would just be I guess verifying isn't the word, but just making sure that the right process is being completed for the to submit the background checks, like to submit a request for them to be done with DCHR.
Yes.
I've been emailing uh, backgroundcheck.learn24@dc.gov. Is that the right email to just
Yes.
send all the people? Okay, just making
Yes,
sure.
and I would recommend you always copy your grant manager, your
Okay,
grants management specialist, because they will then follow up and support you as needed. And you can reach out if you're like, hey, I haven't heard back, then they will work with the staff that is supporting the background check process. We have found DCHR started a new enrolled rolled out a new system this year with field print that is a little less efficient, and we are meeting with them and trying to work through their system issues, because we haven't been receiving things back as quickly as we would like. So sometimes it is just, or you're not, we have found that staff are not receiving the emails that are coming from the field print office, and even in their junk
Yes.
mail, and we're having to
Yes.
request they be resent over and over. So that has really been something that we've noticed this year under their new process, and are encouraging them to resolve, because that certainly is not efficient when you're having to request multiple times and not receiving the emails. And so we understand that, and like I said, we're doing an audit with DCHR to make sure that we can improve that moving forward.
Thank you. That was both of your answers were very helpful. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Jasmine. Tracy, is your hand still up? I don't know.
Yes,
Wanted to. Oh, I
yes,
can hear you
it
now.
is.
Okay.
Okay, okay. Sorry about that. I didn't know that you called me before, and I didn't mean to raise my hand twice. But my question goes back to the enrollment piece and being in compliance based on enrollment numbers. So we're a private school, and every year we set certain projections. So at the time that the grant was written, we had a goal of 120 students across both campuses. Since that has been written, we have not met that goal internally year after year, and we've had to make adjustments. However, I can't make any adjustments on the information that was submitted going on 3 years ago now. Not quite sure if that's allowed or not, but based on those projections, like right now we're standing at 107 students. We're not going to make it based on the projection numbers. So is there any way that we can make adjustments year to year, especially if we're not making our enrollment goals internally?
Great question, Tracy. And yes, you are able to amend your propose as long as it is, still meeting the minimum requirement. And your example demonstrates what is certainly possible. The minimum for a grantee is 50, unless you're a small nonprofit. And as a school, I assume you're not. But small nonprofits are considered anyone with a annual budget of 250,000 or less, and so they have a smaller minimum requirement of 20 youth. But otherwise, it's 50 youth. The only exception there is if you receive over $100,000, then it's a minimum of 60. So let's say you receive over $100,000, you can go down. We hope that you don't drop, uh, 50% or anything. But if you know that you had 107 and you're only going to make it to 90,
Mhm.
then that is an amendment that we would certainly, or 85 or whatever, we want you would have to provide justification that demonstrates, these are the efforts we made. We haven't been able to reach this lofty goal. And so, as long as you could justify that in your amendment, we will approve an amendment again, as long as you're still meeting the minimum requirement, which is 50 and or 60 if you receive over 100,000, or 20 if you're a small nonprofit. So you just
Thank
reach
you.
out to your grant manager and let them know that you are requesting an amendment.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's helpful.
Of course. Gary, I see your hand up.
Hey, Shannon, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I don't have a specific question, but I just wanted to flag something you said earlier about background checks. We're still having trouble getting through the process, and I think it's just our staff are not getting any of the emails from TrueScreen. I've been working with Khadijah and Karita since the beginning of December to get these staff background checks taken care of, and staff just straight up aren't getting the emails. I don't know if it's something going on y'all's end or on TrueScreen's end, but it's the system is thoroughly broken, and I'm advocating once again to hopefully we can
Can I
find a new system or a better system with DCHR.
Yeah, Gary, thank you. You're absolutely right. It is whatever those, it's True Screen, not Filled Print. That is, those emails are just not being received. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide to Karita today. I just had to do this with another grantee. It's going to take a little, you'll have to go in and demonstrate on this list. Your grantees will send out, I'm sorry, I keep saying that wrong. Your staff or volunteers that are currently not cleared, you're going to indicate that yes, you have sent these all to the OST office, and then the dates that the emails that you've requested these emails, if you can demonstrate like you've done everything on your end and this is all just pending DCHR, then we don't want to hold you accountable. Like this is where we can, and this goes for any organization, if you're struggling with this, where you have done it, you've requested emails multiple times. If I can just have documentation of this, then I can ask for an exception in regards to the compliancy mandate there because you've done everything on your end. It's just that, the system is not being responsive, and we certainly don't want to hold grantees accountable for something that is out of your control.
Thank you. I really appreciate that flexibility.
Of course. So I'll follow up today, again with Karita to send that to you. Miss Joe, were you able to come off mute, or did you get your question answered in the chat?
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Good session. Let me ask a question. Scenario, this likely. A small organization has opportunity to serve 60 kids. What happens? It takes you to another zone. So now you penalize people. The people who serve less out of compliance. What of people who serve, grantees who serve over and beyond? You expect to serve 20, you have opportunity to serve 60. What are the implications?
Well, there are no implications. We will applaud that because we want as many kids served as possible. However, we aren't able to, that will be demonstrated in your accountability review, your performance as positive. We cannot, we don't have like a pool of funding to say, hey, you're able to serve this many more kids. We're going to give you this much more money. Unfortunately, like, we give out all of the funding we have, so there is no just pool of funding. However, what would happen in the next grant cycle, if you are demonstrating that you are able to serve 60, but we're only funded to serve 20 before, you can apply to serve 60 and request the additional funding to be able to do that in the next grant cycle, which would be FY27. That RFA will open next spring. So the spring of 2026, we will be launching the RFA for the next 3-year grant cycle for FY27. So again, if what you have learned in this 3-year period is that you're able to serve more youth, then you want to apply to serve more youth, and you want to have that demonstrated in your request as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, of course. Tracy, your hand is still up. Is that from before, or?
That's from before. I don't need anything else. How do I put it down?
Oh, it's okay. I can just ignore it.
Okay. All right.
And I see that there is a lot of responses to questions in the chat. Team, is there anything that has not been able to be addressed in the chat that you want to raise up?
I think we're pretty good, Shannon.
I think we're good. I do want to know, Lakshmi Premsler. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong. You made a really good point about the staff module, because I have seen this. Make sure that when you're uploading new documents that you put a date. If you do not enter a date, the system does not register that there is even a document there. So you will continue to get messages saying this hasn't been done, even though you've put a document there. So just make sure you put a date, and then you save the profile, and then it should automatically say pending. And then that means that we'll get the notification as well.
Thank you for that, Camille.
I'm sorry. Camille, you put a date in the file, or put a date where again?
When you upload
ahead.
a document, like let's say you're uploading a new DCHR letter, it says like there's like a little date box, and then you can upload the document under it.
It's an issue date.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay,
that
thank
you have to enter that in below or right above where you upload the document, and it's just the date that it was issued. That's what then will trigger the expiration date.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and without the date, the system can't trigger an expiration date. And then on the other hand, it also doesn't notify us, the GMS, to go in and review anything. So we have no idea that anything's been uploaded to the system.
Loree.
I was just going to piggyback on that. That was really helpful that you brought that up, because honestly, I don't know if this is really a good space to say. I don't think I remember really doing that stuff. And so I'm just here recently. I don't know if it's because we transitioned, you guys have uploaded the system. And so at first I kept getting the same notification. I was screaming at myself. I'm like, but I know I sat there and put that document in there. But I've never like really adamantly done the check the box of the dates and stuff like that. So what I have made it privy to now here recently, like starting January, I do the dates, and it has been helpful if that can help anybody else. I guess the new system is triggering, and so what it needs to have is some legwork. And so this is great. I really appreciate, because it was really helpful, because I was really confused because I kept seeing my document sitting there. I was like, it's there, but it didn't have a date.
Thank you for that feedback. I'm just pulling up the screen right here so you can see everyone has a visual. This is what you want to see when you go into organization users, and this is just our demo. You want to see that your staff have met background clearance. If a clearance verification is needed in the action step, there are 4 steps that has to be uploaded. It has to be uploaded and verified to be met. That there's actually those 2 steps, but then if it's an affidavit is needed, the affidavit needs to be uploaded and verified. So in this one here, it's on our staff because it's a verification. We need to go in and verify, and then this will be changed to a met. If a clearance is needed, it's on you. Or I don't know if any of these demonstrate that an affidavit is needed. No. Again, this is in the demo, but if it will say affidavit needed because it's been 1 year since that initial issuance date. But if it is a clearance needed, that means there's nothing uploaded and then we need to go in and do it. But if it says clearance verification needed or affidavit verification needed, then it's on our staff to go in and verify. And once all those steps are done, then it turns to met. So if we just go in here to James Dean, and we see that, there is a clearance pending review, we have down here for us on our side, we have the option to verify or reject. So once we verify it, then it will show up in the organization users homepage, or I'm sorry, organization staff homepage as met. But you see those issuance dates? Sorry. Okay. So once you're uploading down here, this is where you're going to enter in the issuance date, and then it will automatically populate the expiration date. So if I was to do a new add additional clearance, this is where you will see FBI issuance date, and then you upload it, right? MPD, you have to put the issuance date and upload it, and then NSO. Of course, this is for the 3 separate categories there. If you're doing a DCHR, same thing, where you're going to have to put the issuance date for both the DCHR criminal and the national sex offender. You upload both of those with the issuance date, expiration date automatically populates, and then we go in and verify. And then when you go back to the organization staff page, whoops, sorry, something happened there. You are able to see that it is met. Well, I'll just stop sharing but that helps, I think, a little bit with a visual there. Any other questions? And as a reminder, DeAndre does have office hours every Tuesday and Thursday. If you need a link to that, you can certainly reach out to your grant manager specialist and say, hey, I'd love to meet with DeAndre. And that person can send you the link if you don't have it. So you can drop in anytime from 12 to 1 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you can go through your profile, whether it's staff module issues, attendance issues, registration issues, whatever it is. He will be there to help provide live tech support to you. If, for example, 12 to 1 on a Tuesday or Thursday just does not work for you, then you can also reach out through that Learn 24 data at dc.gov email or through your grant manager and say, hey, I really need, some tech support, but this time doesn't work, and we can schedule something at a separate time. All right, folks. I'll stay a couple more minutes in case there's any additional questions, but otherwise, that's it. And we will, as always, send out the recording and the slides, so if you need to reference any of the information, you can. Happy Valentine's and happy President's Day. Stay warm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.